So what do the students have to say? Me being a student currently, I'm in my internship period. So I can just tell you a little about myself. I'm a BSc graduate. Then I spent about 3.5 years as a copywriter in India at DDB, and then I didn't know what to do with my life, and I was like really confused. So I was like, what should I do next? And I went onto Reddit, and hyper popped up a couple of times in the comments because I went on to an advertising subreddit. So I was like, okay, let me check this out. And then I applied, I got in, and 6 months later, I was in Sweden. I hadn't done my research on Sweden, by the way, so like, bad call. But it's really fun. Hyper was great. Um, so here are some of the clients that I've worked on during my time. Um, but there are obviously more. And as you can see, it's like across the spectrum in terms of everything from like NGOs to like fashion startups to like big media conglomerates to like smaller like change organizations, and even mobile developers. So what I really liked about my hyper experience was in a sense, the opportunity to work across multiple verticals. I was so used to, at least at my old agency, to work within just like fashion and lifestyle, and that's pretty much it. So this was really interesting. So yeah, here are some of my key takeaways. Me, like first of all, being from the Indian market, it's completely different. So I have to learn how to work with the Swedish market, understand its nuances, and that was an interesting learning experience for me. Number two is going outside my comfort zone and learning to work with clients across a variety of verticals. Yeah, like for me, at least in my mind, NGOs weren't as necessarily attractive to work on. But then once you get into it and really understand the nitty gritties of what they're trying to achieve, it can be so much more interesting. And with most clients, you have like a there's like a fairly close relationship that takes place, and you spend a lot of time discussing with them, discussing the project with them, and it's almost like 6 or 7 weeks. It can range from anywhere to 5 to 8 weeks. So the learning curve is really steep, and the client is generally very happy with the output. So it's really interesting. Another thing that I found that was really interesting was that we were able to deliver a range of solutions across the board to all the different clients. And while you're delivering these solutions, you're also learning how to do new things. So, for example, I've delivered everything from like social media strategies to animated videos, brand platforms, um, and yeah, and like case study videos. So there's like a lot. There are a lot of different solutions that Hyper Island students can deliver, and there's like this almost like a treasure trove of skills within the class. And how it works is that in each module that we have, we get a new client, and you get a new group as well. So it keeps changing. So you keep like having this mix of skills within each group that can be very unique. So each of my group experiences is something completely different. And yeah, learning how to work with different kinds of people, learning to work with um, people, like I said, with a variety of skills. Uh, so yeah, I'm just gonna talk to you about like one of the projects that I did. So they're called For This World, and they're literally like right across the street. I just realized when I came here. So they're a changes organization. So they're currently in the process of building a platform to help organizations and people work towards sustainable solutions for the future. So this project was really interesting for me because For This World has like one employee, and it's the founder. So he sat with us and literally ran us through his entire platform over the course of like 3 or 4 workshops. So we actually sat with him, got down to like what exactly the problem was, and spent a lot of time like developing and iterating the solutions for him. And over the course of 6 weeks, I learned so much. So yeah, this is like, so these are some of the meetings that we had with him. We put down debriefs together as a group, and post-its are a very important part of the hyper experience because it really helps you think. So this is just like a taste of the delivery that we gave him after 6 weeks. Like, yeah, this is pretty much what we gave him. Like going into his brief was basically, how do I communicate what my platform does and get people to join it. So we gave him everything from a social media strategy, like literally breaking it down by platform and telling him why you should be on this platform or why you shouldn't, and a 3-month campaign rollout as well to say, okay, this is how you can spend the next 3 months communicating for this world across different platforms, and also jumping into SEO, email, newsletter, and yeah. So this is and I'd also done a similar campaign for Aftonbladet, which but I can't talk about that. Anyways, uh, so yeah, and so we developed a visual identity for them. And here's just like a kind of like a scratch video that we created in like a day. Um, I'm not going to go through the entire video, but like this is just like because a lot of our work involves prototyping. So we're just like trying to prototype solutions and then run it past the client and see how that goes. So we just did this in the Hyper Island, just in the building itself.
Something that I really care about regarding sustainability is that we take care of our animals because they can't do it for themselves.
I care about solving Sweden's mental health crisis.
Right? Good. So the message is health for everyone.
Yeah, so we were talking about share what matters most for this world, and yeah, we like finished this in like a day, so it was really fun to also get input from people as well. Yeah, open to questions now. That was pretty much it. This project, 6 weeks. Yeah, so the project was about 6 weeks long, 6 to 7 weeks. So the first couple of weeks were primarily like the first like week and a half, 2 weeks were spent debriefing the project with the client. And there were obviously some ups and downs in terms of like, so I think what I learned during my time at Hyper is to not take a brief at face value and constantly keep questioning it, because the brief started with something very different, and then we came to like a much more like holistic solution for him. So yeah, the debrief took almost like 2 weeks, and then we spent about 3 weeks. Like also we did like a lot of surveys, interviewed a lot of people, almost like 20 or 30 people, to get an understanding of his stakeholders in the project, and then jumped into actually figuring out the campaign idea and then producing. Like we made a lot of like visual assets and mock-ups and stuff like that, and yeah, presented. Yeah, 6 to 7 weeks was the timeline. So it's a lot to do for sure. Yeah, go for it.
Guys coming to you guys with a problem that you solve, or do you guys like dive into his business or his goal and try to find the solutions to the goal, or what? How is the initial process?
So he came to us with a problem to solve, which is I'm just like starting out. I haven't actually built like a physical or digital platform, and I want to know how I can communicate what I do to like stakeholders, for example, people or organizations. And the thing is, he took about a week to explain to us what he did. Like, so it took a lot of time for him to like, he had to sit with us because it was a very complicated process. So then we were like, oh shit, if we're taking this much time to understand what it is you do, then there is like a problem that needs to be solved. So then we went about debriefing, and they're like, and we were like, these are the issues that we think exist, and this is how we aim to go about solving them. If that answered your question. Yeah.
Uh, what is the workflow like to start a project? So let's say we have a demand.
Mhm.
Who should we get in touch with?
You want to go? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
We're going to show you before we end this also what type of projects, and then share the presentation with a link, so
Right.
you will know everything.
Cool. And it's usually around, you said like 4 weeks, right? A project
Anywhere
that
between
could
4
be,
to 7.
right? So 1-2 months
Yeah.
project.
Pretty much.
Good. And is there a place where we can like browse the students, for example, like a web page in Hyper that we can look to the students and maybe find someone who we...
how it works is that all of these projects are in the curriculum for the different programs. So it could be, say, a branding module for the students, and then we decide, let's have clients in this module.
Yeah.
So then you apply to be part of that module as a client, and we already know the dates because it's already in the curriculum. So that's why I'm gonna show you it later via a link instead, because it's approximately 45 clients projects per school year. So it's a lot, and in different areas. So what you do as a client is that you have a challenge, you reach out to me, I match you with a project, and then you write a brief, and then we select you to that project as a client.
All right.
What areas?
Oh, everything from UX and service design to data analytics, research insights to branding and storytelling, strategy, organizational design and development, digital transformation, motion and video production, social media and content development. It can be a lot.
There's a lot.
Yes.
3D graphics as well.
Could be potentially possible, yes. Maybe with
With
the
motion.
design lead or motion creative students. Mhm.
So while I will come back to you with respect to how we can engage, but what is in it for what does the student look in a project? Why
What
will
did they look for in a
yeah?
project? I mean, for me at least, it was the ability to discover and like look into a new business and like really break it down and figure out how I can solve a problem. So I mean, that's my basic motivation. I just love creative problem solving.
Hmm.
But and also the fact is like with hyper, like I'm used to at least back home having like a very rigid structure in terms of how you approach education. So it's very like there's rote learning and they're just like lectures that you have to sit and listen to, and it can get really annoying. But what hyper does is it basically takes the agency experience and puts it into a school. So it's kind of like in this like little bubble where there's no fear of like failure, right? You can constantly experiment and like really play around, like because if I did the stuff that I did at hyper at my actual agency, I would have been fired. So it really gives you the chance to play around and try out things that you wouldn't normally do. So it's like I would call it like, yeah, like a sandbox.
So a follow up to that. So if you find a particular project to be so exciting, is 4 to 7 weeks good enough for you, or do you want to work on a similar project for a longer period, or what happens in case it's a longer period
It really
project?
depends. I mean, there are some clients who've like approached us to see if that we want to work with them later on as well. So it's, but yeah, that won't be under the ambit of Hyper Island. Then it would be up to the students to take a call on that.
Sure. Thank you.
So, do we have any other questions or are we wrapping up? Yes?
What was your favorite project
Ooh, that's
and
a
why?
tough one.
If you can share, I know
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
they're protected under NDAs.
Yeah, there are. Hmm. So we actually did a project. So we had immersive, like we had like an immersive experiences module that we worked with the motion creative class, where we basically built a kind of like what's the word for it? Like an exhibition. So we worked with like tech and design and content to create like immersive like installations, and we set up in this like last December set up on one floor of Hyper Island. There were about 15 or 16 different exhibitions that were taking place simultaneously. So for example, I'd worked with a piece where you had a Kinect that was set up to a projector, and there was like a screen. So as a person walked into the room, the Kinect would pick up their figure, and you'd have like a video that's like playing. So as you walk towards the screen, you'd see another figure walking towards the screen. So it was like really fun. Got to learn how to work with like a lot of different softwares, and we had some really cool workshops that really got me to expand my idea of creativity more than anything else. Thank you. Good question.